Welcome everyone to another episode of Unlock Your Child's Full Potential podcast, where we're all about nurturing enduring connections with our children. I'm your host Billy, and today we tackle the burning question on many parents' minds: how to break the yelling habit and foster a more peaceful household environment. Join us as we explore practical strategies and insights shared by our guest, DJ Stutz, an early childhood specialist with a profound dedication to children's rights and education. Drawing from her diverse background as a teacher, parenting coach, host of a parenting podcast, and mother of 5, DJ offers a step-by-step process for overcoming the yelling habit and cultivating harmony and understanding within the family. She emphasizes the importance of recognizing triggers and implementing effective communication techniques. Throughout this episode, we also delve in the significance of setting boundaries, cultivating positive family dynamics, and nurturing strong parent-child relationships at every stage of development, from infancy to adolescence. As DJ often emphasizes, if you want to heal the world, be a good parent. So tune in as we unpack the secrets to harmonious parenting and empower you to create a loving, supportive home environment for you and your children. But before we jump in, I have a simple request. If you find this episode valuable, please consider sharing it with fellow parents. Together, we can help more families navigate the journey of parenting with understanding and patience. Hi, DJ. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Thanks, Billy. I'm so excited to be here, and thanks for inviting me.
I want to ask you, with your experience as an early childhood specialist and as a mother of 5, what, in your opinion, is the most crucial aspect of parenting? Where should our focus be?
Oh, there's so much. But I think really honestly, one of the greatest gifts you can give your children is a strong, stable family relationship. So mom and dad get along, they treat each other well, they model good behavior, and the kids can see that they don't agree all the time. Heavens, that would be boring. But but they can see how mom and dad work through problems, and I can be upset and still love my spouse. And that teaches my kids, I can be upset and still love you too. And that's going to help them learn too how to manage their own problem solving and, getting along with siblings and friends, and it'll set them up for success in their future adult relationships as well.
Yeah, I agree. I believe that strong parent-child relationship is key, and it overshadows grades and accomplishments and whatever else you do in life. So could you share some practical ways we can nurture and strengthen this bond with our children?
Absolutely. Well, it actually starts from the second they're born, and actually even in that last trimester of the pregnancy, babies can hear things that are going on outside the womb. And, it's a whole nother language or whatever. I mean, it's not that but they can hear tones of voice. They can hear, daddy. It's a great time for daddy to even connect with the baby, talking to the baby through the womb, and letting it hear the voice. But then as they are born, I think just holding them and snuggling them, that opportunity for skin to skin contact and letting them feel and smell. And it's not just mommy that can do that. Dads can do that too. And that's something you can do throughout the whole first year of life. But I think as you start out, things like just smiling at the baby and talking with the baby all the time and sharing what you're doing and letting them hear your voice and see that you are pleased to be around them. Babies pick up on that. There's so many things that happen in that first year of life that if there's a lot of trauma and screaming and yelling and all of that, that will affect them for the rest of their life, even though they may not remember that. The way that their brain reacts to different situations, it will. So there's that. And then as they get older, and you see this beautiful, sweet baby, and, you've had fun with them and all of this, and then they turn mobile. they can start moving around and they get verbal and they can start having temper tantrums and all of that. But I think during that time, it's really important to keep in your own mind that this is normal. This isn't something that I have to be afraid of, or, my child isn't going to grow up and be an axe murderer because he had a meltdown at the store, over a cereal or a candy bar they wanted. This is actually normal behavior. It doesn't mean we need to put up with it, but it does help us lead them through it as they gain the skills and the vocabulary and the ability to manage their own emotions. This is all a learning period.
This is what I repeat to myself right now with my 10-year-old who's kind of using disrespectful language. So I'm reminding myself it's normal. She's craving independence. She's trying things. She's pushing boundaries. And I need to remember it's normal.
Yeah.
She's going to be okay.
Well, she's going to be fine. But I think too, you brought up such a great point with boundaries. And boundaries are actually things that help our children feel safe. They're going to fight against them. Yeah, they are. But boundaries help our kids know what to expect. These are our family rules. These are our family values. This is what, we do. And expect them to push against it. Once again, normal behavior. So we don't need to be afraid of it. And it can be somewhat frustrating to go through. Trust me, but with 5, but again, we're helping them through it. And so when they're upset and using disrespectful language or pushing to break a rule, or this rule is stupid or whatever, then, you can sit down and talk to them and not add to the anger. When we yell back at kids, it's just raising the whole volatility of the atmosphere. And so they'll get angrier and you'll get angrier and it just gets crazy. But if you can take a breath, okay, we can do this. and just, all right, so here's our family values. And I understand that you want to do this. So how can we work through that and maybe let you do something that is still within our family rules, our family, whatever you call them, and then get there. What is it that you really want? And why do you think that's a good thing to do? Convince me. And it's not like, why would that be a good thing to do? But it's no, I'm curious, like, why do you think that's, an important thing for you to do right now? What is the benefit to you or to our family or to your friend or whatever? And then talk about that. And I think when you're starting young, and I've just been talking about this on my podcast, but when you're talking about being a good friend, it isn't someone who just goes along because my friends want to do this, but they are thinking ahead and saying, could we get into trouble? Or is this dangerous? Or is this not going to help my friend? So we're always looking out for each other when we are good friends, when we are siblings and taking care of, our brother or our sister or whatever. Are we being a good older brother or sister? How am I helping the situation? Am I making it better? So if we can get them to start thinking about that, and the earlier you start with those kinds of questions, then it'll make more sense to them as they go through those teenage years, which, are exciting and interesting and difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And when you teach them to ask questions, like if you ask them questions, then they'll get in the habit to ask themselves those questions. So I love that. They're going to be more ready to listen if you ask them questions and not giving them commands. You mentioned yelling. A lot of parents resort to yelling when kids don't listen. Is there any way, any workaround? Like, how do we help parents? Because intellectually, all of us know that it doesn't help. It strains the relationship. It's ineffective addressing the misbehavior. But any advice on how to break the yelling habit?
Yeah. Yes. I have a whole pattern that we can go through. But part of it is sometimes, and I don't know if this happened to you, it certainly happened to me. I grew up in a yelling household. It was a fun household. We did a lot of crazy things, but a lot of yelling. And I wound up yelling more than I wanted to. But once I could stop and say, wait a minute, when did I start yelling? How many times are you talking to somebody, especially your kids, and you don't even realize when you started yelling? It just started coming out that way. The more frustrated or the more hurried you are or whatever it is. And so once I could stop and say, wait, I'm yelling, and say that to your child or, wherever they are in the spectrum of growing up, but just say, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm yelling. And so I need to stop. Even if they're yelling at you back, don't address them. Show them the pattern of I'm responsible for me. And when I notice I'm doing something that isn't right, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to say, hang on, I need to go get a drink or I need to take a breath. And then I'll come back and we can talk to one another. This yelling isn't doing anybody any good. When you do that in front of your kids and they're like, whoa,
That's a great way narrating your thoughts and telling them what you're experiencing. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then too, I think just looking at a situation, I really love being curious about everything. Curious about why did I start yelling? What made me feel like I had to start yelling, or what set this up? And pay attention to what times maybe that you're yelling. So you're going to maybe look at, was it right after we got back from school and things are busy and harried? Or are they hungry? Am I hungry? Am I in a rush to get out the door? Is it at nighttime? Or when am I yelling? I get my parents when I coach them to just kind of give a check at what time of day is going on. So then you can look back and maybe see a pattern of when you are, and you can do this for your kids as well, right? And so you can see, when are they not getting along? When are they exhausted? When is their behavior not great? And we're dealing with temper tantrums or whatever. You can start looking for those patterns. So I always tell them to take at least a week to start looking at my patterns for my misbehavior and the patterns for my kids when they're frustrated as well.
And then what do you do once you identify the patterns? Oh, what's next?
Well, yeah, then you're going to be curious again as to how can I make this better? If your kids are old enough, you can say, guys, I've noticed that we are yelling or we are arguing right before dinner, or share the pattern with your children. Now, this is going to be for kids probably second grade and older.
That's any perfect. Younger that's exactly my audience. So that's perfect.
Well, there you go. And so you're going to be able to sit down and share with them and say, wow, I noticed that this is happening a lot at this time. How can we fix it so that people are feeling better? Get their opinion, because if they can share in developing the answer, you're going to have a higher chance of them actually following through with whatever you decide to do as a group to make things better.
So, okay, so create an agreement of what are we about to do next time.
Yeah. And then they're going to blow it. I'm going to blow it as a mom. I'm going to, and they'll be like, you agreed. It's like, yeah, I did, didn't I? So let's take a step back, see where we went wrong. And so when you're talking to them in that kind of tone and saying, oh, I noticed that we're not getting along really well right now. Can we step back and see, well, he's doing this and he's doing that or whatever. They're getting mad. You won't let me do this. Okay, well, let's take a step back. Remember what we agreed on and how we're going to talk to one another, right? And I really want to hear what you have to say, but I can't really understand it when you're yelling at me. Now, I'm not yelling back, but I'm just saying, let's take a breath so that we can talk in a way that I can understand you and where you're coming from. And we can talk about it more.
I love that. And that is also true for sibling conflict, because this is the most triggering part for me. It's like I can self-regulate when it's me and the kids, but once they start fighting between each other, it's just so hard. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, okay, leave them handle it by themselves. But so often they come back and they're crying because they're hurt. And I'm like, why didn't you go in earlier? What's the right approach in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of them. One of them is, yes, let them try to work it out as best you can between themselves. That's actually the best thing. And then if it keeps going on and you can see that it's getting worse, or they come to you and they want you to solve the problem. So I'll tell them, do you want me to get involved then? You want me to help you, right? Yes, all right. And so then I will sit and let's say it's Susie and Johnny, right? So Susie, Johnny, I want you to sit here. We're going to listen to Susie's side of the story. You're not going to say anything. Just listen, please. And then Susie can tell her, and he'll jump in. Whoa, no. I'm like, up. When Susie's done, we're going to hear everything you have to say. But right now, we're totally listening to Susie. Then Susie's done. And I will say, okay, is that everything? Yes, it is. Or and then they'll go on some more. Okay. Then it's Johnny's turn. And Susie will want to interrupt. No, we listen to you. Now we're going to listen to Johnny. And so then when they're both done, I'm not going to say, well, here's what I think the problem is. I'm going to ask them, do you see an answer here that you two can work on that will be the right answer for both of you? And then if they can't or they refuse, and especially at the beginning of this, when you first start doing this, they may refuse. And so you'll say, okay, well, I can come up with the answer if you want. I think you'll like it better if you guys come up with the answer, but I can do it if you want. And my answer is generally like, no fun, right? The blouse seems to be the problem. Gone. But that's my favorite blouse. Yeah, but you are my favorite people. And I don't want something as silly as a blouse coming between, or a toy, or whatever it is. I don't want that coming between my two favorite people in the whole wide world. It breaks my heart that you're arguing. So you're more important than the blouse.
What if it's not an object, but it's a behavior? She's so annoying. Everything she says is so annoying. I can't stand her being in the same room. Nobody wants to leave the room and go in the other room. So one starts hitting, the other one says, she was first. She's so annoying.
Right.
What about that?
Right. And I don't ever worry about who started it, because you'll never get to the bottom of it. Right. And so, but I will say, okay, let's stop for a minute. What is annoying? So give me an example of what she's doing that's annoying.
Oh, she's singing too loud.
Oh, she's singing too loud. And how does that make you feel?
I want to read. She's interrupting my thoughts. I cannot concentrate. I want her out.
So you can't read if she's singing, is what I'm hearing. All right. So, sister, what do you think is the issue then? Your sister, did she ask you to stop singing? Did she say anything about stopping the singing?
No.
She never asked you to stop singing.
She said I'm annoying.
Okay. So older sister, can you see? You just said she's annoying. You never said, Susie, could you please stop singing? I'm really trying to read here. And is there something else that you can do, or another room? When you use that kind voice and you're talking, but it sounds like Susie didn't understand really what it was you wanted, because you just said she's annoying.
Right. Yeah.
See? So now we're getting into more of that. Now, one of my favorite things, because I'm all about let's find joy in parenting, right? And
awesome.
Let's have some fun. So one of the things that I like to do is, if they're just arguing and being, I would do something like, I would take a kitchen pot and put it on my head, and then go in the room where they are and either start vacuuming or dusting or doing stuff in the room, not even looking at the girls, not even saying anything, but they're going to notice that you're walking around with a pot on your head, right?
I love that.
Mom, what are you doing? I'm just cleaning up. Mom, you've got a pot on your head. What? No, I don't. Mom, there's a pot, and so you can just be silly about it, distract them, have some fun with it, and then say, just giggle and laugh with them, bring them in, give them a hug, and say, so what was all of this about? But once you can get them to distract and disengage from the issue, from the problem, now they're looking at something different, then you can laugh about it and then say, come on, come talk to me. What were my darlings arguing about? So you're using that loving tone, loving words. And so you can do some silly things. My mom, so I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and there were 5 boys. And you can imagine there were some arguments that happened. She would come in and start singing this song. It was Love at Home. I'll never forget it. And she would just, la, 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 and there is beauty all around. And she'd do it in her opera voice, and be all silly. And that was kind of the equivalent of the pot on the head. But, she would do it in such a funny, silly opera voice that we'd have to stop arguing so we could turn around and laugh at her. So just find different ways to distract, get them laughing or giggling. And then once they've disconnected, then you can bring them in and talk to them about, now, what was the issue?
That's a great approach. I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's almost like they are not effectively communicating. One of them is not understanding the needs of the other. So we need to get in and facilitate the process.
Another thing that you can do too is I really advocate for at least weekly. You can call them whatever you want, but basically it's a family meeting, right? Where everyone comes together and have something fun, their favorite dessert, or start with playing a game that they enjoy. And so mom and dad and the kids are all together. And then you can role play and say, I noticed that we're having trouble communicating when one of our siblings is doing something that bothers us. So let's practice. What can we do? Because everyone's calm now. They're being, well fed. What do you think we could do to make sure that our sister understands what it is that we need? How can we communicate with one another? At the beginning, they'll be kind of like, because they don't know, right? So you and your spouse could even practice, like how silly you see them arguing. Does that seem to work for you? And we're having fun. And then when it's mom and dad behaving like, this is how we see you guys when you argue. What do we need to do? Help me. How can I do this better? How can I do this more kindly? Because I love my family. We all love each other. You are amazing sisters, right? How can we act like we love each other, though? What are some words we can use? And they're coming up with it now. They're going to start writing their own scripts. But as you practice it in a situation that is not volatile at the time, everyone's, calmed down, they're kind of happy and all of that, then they're going to start understanding more about how to communicate better. And sometimes let them play mom and dad and see how they see you. That's kind of exciting, but it's worthwhile. Exciting. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. These conversations in calm time are so important. And I think we overlook those. We are just dealing with the heated moments, and then we forget all about it until the next heated moment. So it's a good practice to put it in the calendar at least once a week.
And again, make it fun, do something enjoyable, and then you can have your meetings. And it's a good time too to kind of go over calendar and making sure that everybody knows what's going on. We all want to go to Susie's dance recital, and then, Sonny has a soccer game. How are we going to work all of that? And so they know what's coming. A lot of times kids will get frustrated because they don't know what's coming next. And we throw things at them at the last minute. Well, I have this meeting at the school. They didn't realize that. It's a great time to do those kinds of things. And then just have fun and build on that positive, happy relationship. Really plan that out and then keep practicing.
Awesome. Could you recount a cherished memory from your journey as a parent, a moment that stands out to you and holds special significance in your life as a mother?
There's so many. One of the things, so my oldest son, his name is Shiloh, and he mostly grew up in Las Vegas. We don't live there anymore. And he was off playing at a friend's house, and it was time to come home. And he didn't really want to come home. So I walked down to the house and said, "Hey, buddy, come on. I came to get you. It's time to go home. We need to eat dinner." And it was in the winter. Las Vegas winter is nothing, but it was dark early. And so I'm walking down the street. It's about a block away. And he asked me to carry him. And he was 8 years old. And so he was a heavy boy. And so I said, "Okay, I'll carry you as long as I can." And so I'm carrying him. And I said, "Shai, I want you to remember this moment. Pay attention to what's going on right now, because this is the last time I'll ever carry you again." He just hugged me and kind of nestled in, and just that closeness, that touch, and recognizing that this is the last of something that's going to happen in our lives. This era is over. And
Oh,
that was very, very touching for
sounds
me.
like a special moment. Yeah. What about when you look back? Is there something that you wish you could have done differently?
Oh,
Something
tons.
that can...
So many things. And that's, I think, part of it is that we all make mistakes and we learn from them, or we don't, and then things get worse. But, I think that if we can just step back, recognize when things have gone wrong, and then instead of blaming the kids, blaming your spouse, blaming the dog, just stop and think, how could I have done this better? Not beating yourself up, curiously thinking, wow, that didn't go the way I wanted, right? How could I have made this better? And then run that through in your head. Or if you notice that, like you're yelling, or that you're ignoring a child or whatever, and all of a sudden it hits you, I could do this better. It's okay to stop and say, all right, wait, I'm not doing this right. I need to do this better, and let them hear you trying to be a better parent and
They'll
valuing
appreciate
them.
that. They'll
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah. But there were tons of things yelling and
it.
rushing and getting them involved in too many things, so that we didn't have that, you felt like, oh, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and running around. No, you don't have to do any of it. What you have to do is make sure that your relationship with those kids is great, even when it's hard. And it's okay to say, wow, this is a really hard time for us, isn't it? I
Being
want you to know I
open.
love you through every second of this. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Amazing. And as we wrap up, I would like to ask you of a book recommendation. Is there a book you would recommend to any parent that could significantly influence their approach to parenting? It doesn't have to be strictly a parenting book, though, but something that comes to mind that will make them a better parent.
I'll just tell you about the one I'm reading right now. There's some bad books that are out there, but there's some good books that are out there too. And his name is Jeff Nelligan. And he wrote a book called 4 Lessons from My 3 Sons. He talks about raising sons that are independent, that don't get flustered easily, that are confident, and the things that you can do and how early you can start. One of the things he talked about was when his boys were like 5 years old, he'd take them to the mall, give them a $5 bill, and say, don't come back until you have change from the $5 bill. And off they go on their 5-year-old, off they go. And their job was to get change for the $5 bill. And how scary that can be. I have to talk to a grown-up. I don't have my dad right next to me, although he was, keeping an eye. They were at the mall and keeping an eye, but just challenging them along the way in positive, useful things that they could learn. We want our girls not to get scared in situations, so that they have their heads on straight. And instead of getting all, oh, I don't know what to do, it's like, oh, I know what to do in this situation. And they're less likely to become victims or to be picked on or whatever, because, you've enabled them to know what to do.
Exactly. And we tend to be overprotective most of the time. So
we do.
We need some inspiration. Okay. It was a pleasure chatting with you, DJ.
Thank you.
Would you like to tell us more about your podcast and any other ways people can connect with you?
Sure. So my podcast is Imperfect Heroes. Insights into Parenting. You can get it anywhere that you get podcasts. And we talk just about raising children. We have a theme for every month. So we're just finishing a theme of love. Next month, we're doing patience, how to instill and create patience in our kids and in ourselves. And so, yeah, we have a good time. I do coaching. And so you can always get a hold of me too on my website, which is www.littleheartsacademyusa.com. And I'm on Facebook, Imperfect Heroes Podcast, Instagram, Imperfect Heroes Podcast. And so you can always get me there. And then I have a book that
Here is the
Roman
book
is
recommendation.
Yeah, this is, well, my favorite, but it's just about a little boy who's going through managing a lot of emotions and learning the words to properly express. So the title of the book is Roman is Bigger, and he's not mad. He is bigger than mad. Have you ever had a day like that? And so finding the words to express himself, it's just a vocabulary word. It's got a parent's page in the back on how to build your child's vocabulary. And there's even a lesson plan for teachers in there, since I am a retired teacher.
We all need more words for emotions because we're not in the habit of naming our emotions.
Yeah. And that's a big part of communication, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. Thank you, DJ. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to thank you for tuning in. If you found our discussion on breaking the yelling habit helpful, I encourage you to share it with friends, family, or anyone who might benefit. Together, we can spread awareness and support each other on this journey of positive parenting. Until next time, thank you for listening, and remember, your efforts in nurturing healthier communication with your children make a world of difference.